Logic 10.5 features a new step sequencer, which makes it really simple to program drum patterns. It can also be used for repeating melodic lines and other more advanced applications. But in this video, we're going to take a look at the interface and see how easy it is to input a simple drum pattern. So what I'll do to begin with is just make this window disappear, and I've already got here a drum machine designer track loaded up, and if I just control click or right click just here, I then select create pattern region. By default, that then creates a 4-bar pattern region, okay, and then opens up the step sequencer. To make this window disappear, just double click on the region, or to make it reappear, double click as well. Okay, so this is a 16-step sequencer by default. What that essentially means is for each bar, you've got 16 steps as indicated by this grid area here. Okay, so basically 4 steps equals 1 quarter note. Then down the left hand side here, you've got what looks like tracks known as rows in the step sequencer, and kick 1, kick 2, and this reflects the sounds which are loaded into the drum machine designer. So if I program in a beat on a step, okay, I just click there with my mouse. For that to happen, you need to make sure it says step on off on this button here, okay. It should happen by default, but if it doesn't, then just click on it once and it will go blue. So you can see up in the arrange page how one step is repeated every bar, and that's because I've got 16 steps selected here. If I choose 32 steps, okay, it automatically puts this other one in. I'm just going to take that out. Okay, you can now see the pattern repeats every 2 bars because I've got 32 steps running. Okay, now the speed of those steps and how they play back is related to the step rate, but let's not worry about that for now. Okay, so in terms of playing back, we've got a couple of ways to do it. You've got a preview button here. Okay, so probably the easiest way is just to click on the preview, and then we can program in. And to stop, just click on it again. Now, I have turned off my MIDI output. You'll probably have this on to start with. What this basically does is when you program in a note, it will output that note. But it can get a bit confusing when you're building up a pattern. Let me press on preview. Okay, so I prefer it turned off and then you don't hear it. Let's make this a bit more exciting. So you can see it's really quick to program in a beat. You just click to insert a step and click on it to delete it as well. So if you want to play the beat in context, then what I suggest you do is set up your left and right locators. So select the region, Command U, okay, and then if I hit spacebar, then you can see it now playing within the arrange page. And again, you can keep on editing and playing around with the pattern. You can also zoom in and out. Let me just resize this window. So you might want to adjust this window so you can see more of the rows. Okay, equally, you've got control with this zoom control, or you can click once on this button and it will maximize the grid, okay, according to the size of the window. Also, just on the left-hand side in the row header area, you've got mute and solo buttons. So again, if you just want to drop out a certain sound, you can then just click on the mute button or solo it, and then you can focus on that specific element. It's exactly the same process if you want to create a pattern region in the live loops. Okay, just control click or right click, create pattern cell, and then if we double click, opens up the step sequencer, and you can see that reflected in the actual cell itself, and then just press play and there we go, we're up and running. In addition to the note on off or step on off, we can also edit the velocity information as well. And to see that, there's a couple of ways. One is we can just click on this button here. Okay, velocity goes from 1 up to 127, and 100 being the default. And basically anything below 100 is going to be quieter. So So you can hear that quite clearly. To reset, just hold down Alt, click, back on the step, and that resets the velocity. Okay, so typically what we'd do is just drop the volume of, when you've got a kind of 16th note skip note, just drop the volume of it a touch, and that can give it a little bit more of a kind of bouncy feel. Okay, so we can adjust the velocity. Another good example of this is on something like a hi-hat. Now, my hi-hat track is down here, so if I want to move this up, just click around there and then just drag it up. Okay, they're not always in the order you want them to be. And if I just switch back to step mode and then just draw in a string of step notes, incidentally, you saw there when I did that it added in an extra note. I came off the lane. So one useful way, if I hold down the shift key, okay, whilst dragging, so I click, hold down shift and then drag, I can't go on to another row. Okay, quite a useful shortcut. Great, so I've got a string of hi-hats in here, but it all sounds quite metronomic because they're all at the same velocity. So quite a useful thing to do to add more of a kind of groove to it, even though we're not adjusting the position of the notes, is just to kind of vary the velocities. Okay, and we can do this type of pattern. So basically up and down, and up and down. Now there is a way for us to kind of create a shorter loop, but let's just go with this for now. Press play, and let's solo the hat. So we can hear there, it's got a real nice kind of accented feel to it. Brilliant. So you could see I displayed sub rows just by clicking on this little triangle here. We could then see velocity, and you can set these up however you want. Okay, the one below is note repeat, and this is pretty cool because it repeats notes. In fact, it will work really nicely on this hi-hat. So if I come over here just to the end, and we could try a 3. So what this will do when it gets to this step is it will create a triplet feel just on this note. Let's press play. Okay, so we get a real nice kind of shuffle, don't we? It's as though we've just divided that grid into 3s at that particular point. And all I did is click and drag up, and you could go 16th notes. That'll probably be a bit buzzy. There we go. Or 4s. Great. If you want to access more of these options, then you can add another sub row. Just click on this little plus button. Here comes another sub row, and then you can choose whichever one you want from the list. There's 2 useful buttons here on these sub rows. These 2 controls here control the value of the row overall. So if I click here, okay, you can see it's increasing all of them by the same amount. Okay, or I can click and drag for a speedier change. So it all brings it down by the same amount. So potentially an easier way to, in this case, change the volume. This button here shifts the whole pattern to the right or left. So this is going to change the emphasis of this pattern. So you can now hear that the emphasis is actually on the on beat. Okay, or if we wanted to shift the whole thing, including the note repeat, then we'd use the actual main row to do this. So it's up to you whether you use the sub rows, which I find quite useful, or whether you use this menu up here, and then that will display on the actual main grid, and then you can just click and drag and edit away.
We hope that this video has given you a little bit of insight on what it's like to study here at Point Blank Music School. If you want to find out more, make sure you check out pointblankmusicschool.com.